I never thought humiliation would have a sound, but it does. It sounds like quiet laughter echoing off marble walls, like someone clearing their throat just a little too loudly when you're already on edge. It sounds like a man saying your name with confidence, knowing everyone in the room believes him more than they believe you. That was the sound filling the courtroom the morning my life nearly ended, and the same morning it finally began. I stood there alone, hands clasped so tight my fingers hurt, wearing a navy dress I'd bought years ago on sale, praying it still looked respectable. Across the room sat my husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, Adrian Cross. He looked relaxed, almost bored, scrolling his phone like this was a formality before lunch. His lawyer leaned in close, whispering things that made Adrian smirk. They didn't even look at me. Why would they? In their minds, I was already done. Adrian had frozen every account we shared 2 days earlier. My card declined at the grocery store. My phone service shut off that same night. Friends I thought were mutual suddenly stopped answering texts. By the time I walked into that courtroom, I had exactly $47 in my wallet and a knot in my chest that felt permanent. Adrian knew it. That was the plan. Cut me off, isolate me, then finish me quietly in front of a judge. When the clerk called the case, Adrian stood up with confidence and announced that I was unrepresented. His lawyer followed with a polished explanation about delays, wasted time, and how I clearly didn't have the resources to proceed properly. Adrian added his own commentary voice, dripping with fake concern. "She's emotional, Your Honor. She doesn't really understand finances. I tried to help her, but she refused to be reasonable." I remember thinking how strange it was that the man who once forgot my birthday now knew exactly how to describe me as small. The judge turned to me and asked if I had counsel. I said yes, softly, then louder, when my voice cracked. "She's on her way." Adrian laughed. Not a chuckle, not a breathy exhale, a real laugh. He leaned back and said, "With what money?" People in the gallery shifted. Someone sighed. I felt heat crawl up my neck, that familiar mix of shame and anger. I wanted to scream. Instead, I waited. Because I knew something Adrian didn't. Or maybe I hoped. Either way, it was all I had left. The judge checked his time and warned me he wouldn't wait long. Adrian's lawyer requested to proceed without delay. Adrian nodded eagerly, already tasting victory. He leaned over and whispered loud enough for me to hear, "This is what happens when you think you're smarter than me." Then the doors opened, not politely. They swung open hard, the sound sharp and final like punctuation at the end of a long sentence. Every head in the room turned. A woman stepped inside wearing a tailored charcoal suit, silver hair pulled back, posture straight like she'd never learned how to shrink. 2 attorneys followed behind her, folders in hand, moving with purpose. Adrian's smile vanished. His lawyer froze mid-sentence. The woman walked down the aisle calmly, heels clicking, each step measured. She didn't look rushed. She didn't look uncertain. She looked like someone who had already won, and she knew it. When she reached my table, she set her briefcase down, turned to the judge, and said, "Apologies for the delay. Your Honor, I was finalizing documentation related to undisclosed assets." The judge blinked. Adrian went pale. She introduced herself as Margaret Hale, senior partner at a firm whose name alone shifted the air in the room. Then she placed a hand on my shoulder and added, "I represent the defendant, and I'm also her mother." The silence that followed felt physical. Adrian's mouth opened, then closed. He looked at me like I'd committed some elaborate betrayal by having a family. I met his eyes for the first time that morning, and I didn't look away. Margaret didn't waste time. She laid out motions, evidence, timelines. She dismantled Adrian's narrative piece by piece, calmly, precisely, like she'd done it 1,000 times before. The prenuptial agreement he'd bragged about signed under coercion. She explained the legal precedent and casually mentioned she'd helped draft the guidelines years ago. Adrian interrupted, shouting that it was nonsense. The judge silenced him with a look. Then came the money. Margaret presented bank records Adrian hadn't disclosed, accounts routed through shell companies' transfers masked as consulting fees. She named cities I'd never visited, currencies I didn't recognize. Adrian shifted in his seat. His lawyer started flipping through papers like he could rearrange reality fast enough to escape it. When Adrian took the stand, he tried to regain control. He spoke about responsibility leadership, how he'd managed everything because I was creative, not practical. Margaret smiled gently and asked simple questions. Where did the apartment come from? Why was it furnished? Who was the jewelry so for? Adrian stumbled. He contradicted himself. Sweat dotted his forehead. When he finally snapped, shouting that it was his money and I didn't deserve any of it, the courtroom went dead silent. The judge leaned forward slowly and asked, "Are you admitting under oath that you intentionally concealed marital assets?" Adrian didn't answer. He didn't need to. Margaret said no further questions and sat down. I realized my hands were shaking not from fear this time, but relief. Adrian's lawyer tried to withdraw. Adrian grabbed his sleeve, furious, desperate. The bailiff stepped in. The judge denied the withdrawal and warned Adrian to sit down or be removed. The power dynamic had flipped so fast it felt unreal. Then Margaret called the next witness, Adrian's girlfriend. She walked in looking nervous, eyes red, voice shaking. She told the court everything. The lies Adrian told about me. The plan to leave me with nothing. The jokes he made about teaching me a lesson. I didn't cry. I just listened. It felt like hearing someone describe a stranger's life, except I knew every detail was mine. When the judge issued his orders, it felt like breathing after being underwater too long. Adrian's accounts frozen. The house awarded to me. Criminal referrals made. Legal fees assigned to him. The gavel came down hard, and Adrian's world collapsed in a matter of minutes. Outside the courthouse, sunlight hit my face like it was the first time I'd ever felt it. I thought it was over. I really did, until my father showed up. He approached with paperwork talking about loans and collateral, trying to reclaim the house through business logic. Margaret read the documents, smiled that same dangerous smile, and pointed out the trust structure Adrian had ignored. The forged signature. The invalid claim. My father backed down, muttering apologies, retreating into his car. For the first time in years, no one was taking something from me. 3 months later, I stood in a gallery filled with people admiring my work. Paintings I created during sleepless nights, during therapy sessions, during moments when I almost gave up. Every piece sold. Every wall empty. My name printed cleanly on the program. Adrian was sentenced shortly after. Fraud, perjury, financial abuse, 7 years. I didn't go to the sentencing. I didn't need to. My life wasn't about him anymore. Here's what I learned. Silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes it means you're gathering strength. Being underestimated can be painful, humiliating, even dangerous, but it can also be the reason no one sees you coming. If you've ever been written off, dismissed, made to feel small by someone who thought they owned the narrative, I want you to tell me. Was justice served? Was it enough? Or do you think power always finds a way to protect itself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading them. And trust me, these conversations matter more than you think.